from Birds of San Pancho and Other Poems of Place.
Thank you. So this is my brand new book, Birds of San Pancho and Other Poems of Place, which just came out yesterday from Blue Light Press. And my wonderful publisher, Diane Frank, is here with us tonight. So thank you, Diane. And there are links to my websites and the books that I'm reading from tonight in the chat. So Birds of San Pancho contains a lot of different types of poetry, and many of them are eco-poems. And in keeping with the theme of eco-poetry tonight, I'm going to read some eco-poems from Birds of San Pancho. And I'll start out with 3 California eco-poems as the transition from Fire and Rain. The first one is a sonnet, and it's called Watching the Grebes, and this takes place at Clear Lake, California. A taut blue sky is stretched above the lake, which glitters like a rippling field of stars in early sun. 2 western grebes take a morning swim, but they don't go far before they plunge. When they emerge, beaks filled with weeds, they stand. It's time to dance. Long necks held high, black crests and white cheeks side by side. They glide as though on skis, advance toward us. Standing on the balcony, we see the shining wake they leave behind. My love, I'd like to be as easy as the grebes who seem content to find a dancing partner as the new day starts, a dark-winged bird that knows the steps by heart. And the next one is called At Lake Tahoe. Granite mountains, dense with white firs, lodgepole pines, and ponderosas, rise abruptly from the lake's blue bowl, so deep its waters could cover all of California and Nevada. The Washos, who lived here 10,000 summers, named it Lake in the Sky because it reflected clouds, sunset, and stars. They caught Lahontan trout in the lake, mountain whitefish in icy streams. On the other side of the continent, my Wampanoag ancestors were gathering cranberries, covering their summer homes with cattail mats, baking clams, drying corn, and fishing for salmon off Cape Cod. The Washos used only fallen trees for homes they would dismantle before leaving Lake in the Sky each winter. In fall, they gathered pinyon pine nuts to eat until spring. This was before white people came and cut down the pinyon pines to build their houses, dynamited the mountains in search of silver and gold, and claimed the fish. Now, a paddle boat with 3 decks takes tourists on cruises of Lake Tahoe. Yet in summer, Washos still do the pine nut dance, and Wampanoags do the grass dance to keep the world in balance and remind us that the earth is living, every rock is sacred, and every tree and salmon has a soul. And now we're going to see the elephant seals in Año Nuevo, California. What are they thinking, stretched out in the sun like logs or so many gargantuan sausages? It looks like an easy life, lounging in a puddle or sleeping on the beach. But something's going on, roaring and drumming. They're making a racket. Loser mates lumber toward alphas, rear up, get bitten, lumber off, lolling on sand. Do they plan the next fight? 9 of 10 males never get laid in a lifetime. Do the losers complain to each other? Do females brag about 100-pound pups? Does anyone dream about dinner? They don't eat for months in winter. Do they remember diving 2,000 feet under the sea, holding their breath for up to 2 hours to hunt for fish and eels? They're lucky if the fish are mercury free, if storm waves wash no pups from the beach, if they grow fat enough for a chance at bigamy. And now I'll read some poems from Latin America, and these are our eco poems too. The first one I'll read is the title poem from the book, Birds of San Pancho, and this takes place in Nayarit, Mexico. A great kiskadee sits on the casa wall, belting its exuberant song above the dusty cobblestone street. The bird is masked like a raccoon, its breast yellow as the butterflies that flit amid hibiscus and bougainvillea. Far from the casa, where palms and maya nut trees grow lushly, a yellow-winged cacique waits in the paper bark tree, the lemony underside of its long tail cascading like silk. It surveys the scene, ignoring the golden-cheeked woodpecker, streak-backed oriole, flycatchers, and scrub euphonia sharing the selva. Farther down the dirt road, where red ants live inside acacia thorns, a pale cow wanders alone, snubbing the fat chachalacas, singing chachalaca as I pass by. It seems the birds are out to cheer me, though I know food and mates are what they're after. A whole flock of orange-fronted parakeets feasts on berries overhead. Later at the lagoon, a great blue heron, a little blue heron, a green heron, a night heron, 2 great herons, 8 snowy egrets, and 20 cattle egrets gather while brown pelicans dive for fish and the sun's bright disk sinks into the sea. When it disappears, the egrets rise in groups and pairs to settle in 2 coconut palms for the night. Oh, to sit up there too, safe, having eaten my fill, with folded wings, watching over creation. And now I'll read a couple of poems from Costa Rica. The first one is called Birthday Gifts from the Rainforest, and this takes place in Arenal, Costa Rica. A howler monkey dining in a cecropia tree, a trogon dressed in yellow, blue, and green, his dowdier mate, the blood tree oozing red sap. A river of leafcutter ants carrying bits of leaves much bigger than their bodies to their nest, antbirds and wrens chattering and flapping. A pygmy squirrel hunched on a branch, heliconias with leaves like orange beaks, sleepy hibiscus whose pistils stick out from pink buds that never open, whiptail lizards rushing every which way across the path, rattlesnake plants shaking spiky yellow blossom stalks like beads. A baby viper curled on a leaf, monkey tail ferns and elephant ear plants, rufous-tailed hummingbirds savoring purple blossoms of porterweed, a palm whose above-ground roots look like huge penises. All the creatures looking down at me, twice as old as I'd like to be, but not yet done with wonder. And this one is called The Real Thing, and it takes place in Palo Verde National Park, Costa Rica. In a boat skimming past red and black mangroves, close packed leaning over the briny Rio Tampisque, where crocodiles swim, the scales down the middle of their backs, breaking the water's murky surface like chains of floating rocks, I think of the Jungle Cruise in Disneyland, my father beside me when I was 8. When the fake crocodile opened its jaws, he said, "How would you like to see the real thing?" I said I would and meant it, but knew I'd never go with him. He feared planes, boats, and the depth of rivers. But now I'm looking into the eyes of a live crocodile in a jungle river, pale green marbles, the pupils vertical black slits. The crocodile regards me with no apparent interest, while herons dip for fish, iguanas bask on branches overhead, and roseate spoonbills splash the sky with pink. Howler monkeys stay high in the trees, but white-faced capuchins crowd around the boat when we stop. One climbs on the roof, another poops from a limb a few feet away. It hits the water with a splash. Daddy, who put so many ideas in my head, I hope you're looking down from heaven at this monkey relieving itself beside me, then popping a big black spider into its mouth. It's the real thing. And I'm going to conclude with 3 poems about the Galapagos. This one is called Time on Robida. On Robida, where the sand is red, 3 white-cheeked pintails swam in a brackish lagoon beneath a ruddy hill of basaltic rock formed when magma from an ancient volcano cooled in the sea. It didn't matter what time it was when I was there, what day, or even what year. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow were all the same to the finches, passing saltbush, prickly pear cacti, and leafless incense trees adorned with tufts of moss. I spotted a marine iguana lounging near an outcropping of rock where a lone cactus grew high above the waves. And somewhere on the path, I lost my watch with the brown leather band and round face encircled by rhinestones. I was happy to be timeless like the warblers and flycatchers, and wondered if a bird might find my watch and use it to decorate its nest. But then someone found it and gave it back to me with a broken band. And I looked at it sadly, longing for wings, a swift escape. And this is called What the Tortoises Know. On Genovesa, as my husband lay on the beach of Darwin Bay, a sea lion came to sniff his toes, and a red-footed booby sitting with her chick in a mangrove nearby let me get kissing close. On North Seymour, the frigate birds weren't fazed by me, and a young blue-footed booby was intrigued by my walking stick. On Espanola, the sand was so thick with iguanas, it was hard not to step on them. The guide explained that the animals here don't fear us, hawks and short-eared owls being the only predators evolution has bred them to know. They first saw humans with guns and bows just 500 years ago. But giant tortoises who live to be 150 years old have seen how we kill to make boxes and combs. So heads and legs withdraw into shells at the sound of a loud voice, and they grow still as clean-picked bones. And my last poem is called Global Warming in the Galapagos. 3 years without rain, and incense trees are gray, leafless in what should be the wet season. Without the trees, where will red-footed boobies with blue beaks build nests where fluffy chicks can hatch? Even prickly pear cacti looking so much like clusters of spiny ping pong paddles are turning brown and dying. What will happen to iguanas that eat the cacti and lava lizards that nibble lice from the iguanas' necks and backs? A warming ocean also brings El Nino, with too much rain flooding overheated currents where penguins can't find fish, and beaches so hot that green turtle eggs can't hatch. When iguanas can no longer regulate their body temperature, giant tortoises and blue-footed boobies will gather like refugees and strike out for cooler land. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucille. That's a beautiful reading.